Yo, it's your boy Uncle Pre with another episode of the Unfltered podcast. This week I have Rhea here, Silverjay, new podcaster entering the scene. What are you saying, lovely?
Hi, well, I'm a new podcaster, getting into it. I'm not entirely sure what kind of journey I've put myself on, but, gonna learn, gonna see how it goes.
You're gonna have fun with it.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point. It's just balancing it all, ensuring that you just do everything that you're supposed to, and I didn't want to make it as if I didn't want it to become a chore. It's like, so every time I do it, I think I'm doing it with the right intention. Because what's the point otherwise? You're just living your life without an intention.
Yeah. I hear you.
No point.
I hear you loud and clear. Give everyone a little backstory about yourself. I only know of Rhea because she was at her family basically did one of my best friend from uni's his wedding event.
Yes.
And I got to meet you in
Saint-Tropez.
Good times, good
fun. That was fun for you. I was running around like a dickhead.
Yeah, you had fun as well.
Yeah, I did in the end when everyone forced me to have a drink. But
Yeah.
Then it was fine. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, a bit about me. I don't even know sometimes where to start. I feel like I've got so many different versions of the way I've lived. I know I'm only 25, but it's like you go through so many phases in your life. And it's like which phase you pick out that pinpoints you as the person you are today. So if I go all the way back and I take it right back, I think what's interesting is that I was always really confident when I was little. And like I thought I was it. So I was really, really cocky. It's like, when you're a boy and they're really cocky at school. Yeah. I was like the girl version at school like that. So I would do freestyle dances in front of the whole school. And to like whip my hair, turn my swag on. It was a wild time. And I kind of kept that up. I was always me. I was living life to the fullest. And obviously when you're super confident and you're a brown girl who's super confident, there's always backlash. You're always going to get people not understanding that, not liking that. And I kind of pushed through all that. I wasn't really bothered. I was like, well, I like this. This makes me feel empowered. This makes me feel good. And when you're a child, everything's really intuitive. Nothing's very now I overthink like everything. But when you're a child, you don't. You just ride it through.
Yeah.
So I was riding it through. I wasn't really bothered about anything anyone said. And it didn't really bother me that I wasn't maybe somebody that was super smart, super academic. Like, it was fine. Like, I was just doing what I wanted to do. And then it got to a point where I feel like everything that anybody had ever said to me throughout the years of 4 to like 17, it all just ended up weighing really heavily down on me.
Yeah.
And then I started to embody all these ideas that I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't pretty enough or I wasn't smart enough or whatever it might be. And it was quite hard to kind of go through all that and think, oh my God, is everything what everybody said, are they right? Am I the problem? Am I the issue? And that really weighs down heavy. And that was when I was borderline 18, 19, kind of in that kind of phase of life. And I think from then on, I was really trying to get back to that unapologetic, unfiltered human being that really didn't care. And she was just so out there. She just wasn't bothered. She followed her gut. And I think that's the type of person that I admire. And that's me. I admire me. So I was like, where is she? So I was running, trying to find her. Finally found her again. She's here. She's living life.
There we go.
And it takes a while to kind of put yourself back together when everything weighs heavy back down. And as a result of all that stuff, I developed a passion. I did sociology and PostColonial Studies at uni. I was bang into all of it. I was, really bang into cultural appropriation, and it used to really irritate me. I'd talk about it at school. What's your opinion?
Nah, Karen.
And yeah, it was just like, got into all that vibe, and then I ended up fighting for something. So it was like I was fighting for myself as well as everybody else that was, had an injustice done by them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's my backstory, where I'm kind of at with life. And yeah, that's me.
Do you still feel like right now, and be honest with me,
Yeah.
that there are parts of you where you don't feel good enough?
Oh, yeah. I think that's natural.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's natural. I think you can't always be the person you want to be 24/7 because life gets in the way.
I don't know.
You don't agree?
I don't know if I 100% agree. Only reason why, because that's the kind of work I do with the clients I work with, right? In terms of coaching and getting them from.
So this is gonna be a coaching session.
No, at all. You've got a topic you want to touch base on. Don't you worry. We're gonna get into that. Okay. I was just interested because I love how you said that you went running around trying to find that version of you where you just didn't care, was living more like her life with a smile on her face and probably carefree. I think that's the words you use, right?
Yeah, it's carefree, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of us within, let's say, the generation of late 30s to arguably like early 20s start to realize that shit, things were said once upon a time and I possibly parked it aside, didn't realize it, but my actions have followed up on it, and I've put these negative belief systems in my head thinking that I'm not good enough, and this is my way, I'm just going to get through it. And it might not have been something someone had said, it might have been things you watched just based on like grandparents and how they possibly have been, or parents, and watching what other kids got up to at school, what teachers possibly said, what grades you got, and what that could do to you. And I found it quite interesting because like I didn't realize when I was going through my little phase, and I've talked about it so many times on the pod, so it's going to sound like he's talking about that again. But yeah, honestly and truly, there was a point where I felt so unworthy. I didn't realize it, but I just made it very, very normal until I got to a stage of going through my own self-development and that self-care where I started to realize, yeah, that's not the right lifestyle for you, because you're just going to keep putting on this unnecessary pressure on you in all forms of life.
Yeah.
And so once I was able to find that transition, and it took a few steps, but being able to let that part of me go and being this new person, I don't feel I ever go to a stage where it's a case of I'm not good enough. I think I own the fact that like I'm not perfect, and I can put my hands up and say I'm not perfect at loads of things, and that's fine. But I never like try and wire it where it's a case of, yeah, you're not good enough for that. No, just wrong timing.
That's a good way to look at it.
That's why I wanted to ask you that, because I was just, it got me thinking like, well, I can appreciate you possibly have done work with yourself in terms of whether you've done reflections, just your journey, just realizing things, maybe you're just very aware. But I feel like sometimes the way we word things and the way we say things, if we project in a certain way, it comes across a lot more negative than what we're trying to do. In terms of like me saying that right now, of course, there's going to be times where I'm not as good enough as compared to someone else, but I'm not comparing myself to them.
Yeah.
I'm comparing myself to me right now. And you know what? Bottom line of it is, yeah, I'm not 100% at it, and that's fine, Pri. It's cool. You weren't meant to be.
Yeah. Well,
Just a little diversion, but like I just wanted to.
No, I think it's really interesting. I needed a second to just digest what you said, because it's interesting that you can now say, well, it's okay if I'm not, if I'm not perfect at certain things. And that's a really nice position to be at. Yeah. I think I catch myself doing that sometimes, and I think that's really positive. Like, no, I'm not going to be the best at every single thing that I want to do, and that is absolutely fine. And then the other part is, I think maybe it's the pressure you put on yourself to be the best, do the best, and, have the right things in the perfect order. I want to think about why is it that I put that kind of pressure on. And I think a lot of people, and I'm asking myself a question, but I think a lot of people tend to talk about families, then you talk about, childhood, and then you talk about whatever. But I think it's because we've got all these ridiculous structures, all these societal structures that are put in place for us to navigate in. And it's not to do with our parents or our childhood. It's to do with how the world has created these structures for us to exist in. Now we have to work within them. And it actually always comes back down to the capitalist dream of working hard to be successful. So we're now in a position where we blame our parents and we blame our childhood and we blame ourselves, when in reality we should be blaming capitalism for putting these ideas inside of us to be reaching potentials for them to circulate, make more money and live their lives correctly. So it's like it's embedded in us because that's what we've grown up to be doing, saying, being, and whatever.
Yep.
I'm a massive advocate for talking about how colonialism infiltrated and created capitalism, and how now everything that we do is centered around those two kind of being in parallel with each other. And I think it actually applies to everything, and it also now applies weirdly to individuality and self-worth, because you have to keep rebelling against structures in order to exist freely.
Yeah.
And I think when you're a child, you have no concept of a societal structure, so you are free.
Yep.
Hence why I freestyle to whip my hair in front of 500 people. So you get to that. And then I think, obviously, my degrees helped me not just, it wasn't just to show off that I got some degrees, but it really shaped me as a human being, I think, to understand, so you can mentally rebel against the structures that exist.
Yeah. See, like when I was at uni, I did maths of economics, standard, right?
Standard.
Well, not really standard. I have a business management, accounting, anything to do with like business.
Still smart, but standard.
Maths, standard.
Yeah.
Fucking Patel, standard. Like, same old shit, right? But one thing for me was like looking back what you've just said right now, I wanted to do graphics. Yeah? Hear me out. So I did graphics at GCSE, was really good at it.
Yeah. I did too.
Did it at A level, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do 4. Let's just run it. And it was like the most fun I had. Like, I think the hours I had to do and like trying to create a project and learning Photoshop and all of that kind of stuff, I was really invested in it. And I remember I told myself when I was in like early years of like high school and like late years of primary school that I wanted to become like a graphic game designer. I wanted to create the next FIFA or Call of Duty or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I remember like it was said not in a negative way, but like trying to get a job in that field is going to be so difficult for you, Pri. There's so much competition out there. Like and like that instilled within me.
Competition in what you did and what you do now.
I have no idea. But obviously the safety blanket that people have is if you go down business route, you're definitely going to be fine, right? But being a graphic game designer, what could you do with that? And that's because possibly people weren't educated in regards to their opinions that they threw out, because I could have gone into marketing. I could have used my skills with Photoshop in so many different areas, content creation right now. But obviously we don't think like that at the time. It is what it is. And like, unfortunately, on the back end of that, I then went to study maths because I had maths and further maths as my A levels, as my backup. And when I listen to what you said you did right now, I've always looked back and said, oh man, I wish I like possibly did something more fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
Like I smashed uni, so it was good. I'm not complaining with it, but like, and I feel like everything happens for a reason. So I've learnt stuff on my journey. And look, there's no reason if I ever want to do a degree in graphics or anything like that, I can always go back and do it again. Like, it's not a problem. But it's interesting because your degree sounds like I've never heard of anyone doing anything like that before.
Yeah, well, I think it's really interesting what you said, because my friend is a graphic designer. And she was always sort of similar story to me. She was always told she wasn't good enough and stuff growing up at school. I hope she doesn't mind me telling anybody this. But she pursued her dream. She's like, I want to be a graphic designer, so I'm going to do it. And she did it for GCSE. She did it for A level. She did it as a degree. And then she went and did it. And, me included, was like, I can't believe she's just gone and done that. So because I was around like people like that. I think I thought, okay, well, I can do certain areas that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're around certain influences, obviously, as you said, you were influenced to do different things, or, now you're in finance or whatever. Sounds fun. And yeah, so for me, it was that side. So I had my friend who was doing what she wanted to do. But the main part about me, which I've actually missed, is that I was always into drama. I was bang into drama. I'm an actor, actually.
There we go.
And it's been my life since I was like 7.
Yeah.
So I did all the school plays. I enrolled with an agent. I've done some voiceovers and stuff. And like, that was like my thing. So not being told I was good enough academically obviously hurt my feelings, but I knew I had a skill. So I was like, well, I have a skill, so at least I've got that. And I think then my parents were like, well, she's got a skill, so that's okay then. Congrats to her. And
that is quite funny. At least she's got a skill.
So that was always my route. That was always what I was going to do. I was going to go to drama school. I was going to, work as a waiter and do auditions at the same time. So that was going to be my life. And then, cultural appropriation smashed through Twitter and got really pissed off. No one understood what I was saying. Like when I was trying to explain that, in the most basic form, if you're not Hindu, you cannot wear a bindi. Like it just didn't make sense that everybody was going around to festival. Do you remember that whole epidemic of cultural appropriation?
You're on your own there. You're going to have to educate me.
Oh, God. Okay, so...
If you're not Hindu, you can't wear a bindi. That's what was being...
Well, no, that was what I was saying.
Okay.
But like there was this whole thing about how you cannot wear something from someone else's culture because it's appropriating their culture and you're wearing it just because you can, and it's like you have the freedom to.
Yeah.
So it's basically when a superior race wears something that is from someone maybe from the global south or from Africa or whatever, and they wear certain hairstyles or they wear certain religious items or clothing, and they can wear it, live their life, not be affected by societal discrimination or whatever, and they can carry on, but it's almost like they can cosplay cultures because they have privilege, so they're not going to be affected by the cultural things that we get affected by. So I was quite proud to be Indian when I was younger. I was like bang into all of it. I was so religious. And I loved it. But then it got taken in such a negative way that it was like a weird thing for me to be into. Because obviously I told you I was vocal about everything. So yeah, I was vocal about me being Indian and religious as well. And it didn't get taken well either.
By who?
Like, it was by people. I can't go into
okay, fair. By people.
And I feel like I've gone into a massive circle here, but when eventually cultural appropriation stormed Twitter and people of colour were getting really irritated that other people were able to wear their certain, like, I don't know, religious clothing or hairstyles or whatever it might be, it wasn't understood. It was like people were talking gobbledygook, like, what are you going on about? Of course we can wear whatever we want. We're in a Western society. We're in a melting pot, blah, 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 blah. Like the melting pot was a big geography term back in the day. I think it's probably racist now. And, yeah. So I was talking about all these things and it was, I feel like when you get angry, the anger doesn't go away. And then you get more angry because then I went and studied sociology because I wanted to go to a good university. I really enjoyed what I was doing. I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket doing drama. I thought that was probably not a sensible thing to do. And I ended up, was so angry by society and what pressures they put on people and the impacts it's had on everybody, including myself, that to go and study it would allow me to be able to speak about things in a formatted, correct way.
Yeah.
So I went and did that. Absolutely fell in love with the subject. Loved what I was doing all the time. Like, it was like a mix between like philosophy and life. Like it was philosophy, but in real time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I was like, whoa, this is cool. And then I finished it off in the pandemic, which was just, it was great.
Fair?
No, I'm joking. It was awful. And then I went to do PostColonial Studies because I was so infuriated by race and empire that I wanted to know more about it. And I wanted to get into human rights and activism, and I needed to know more. No one's going to take me seriously if I've only done an undergrad. I have to go and do a master's in it if I'm going to be, taken seriously. So I did that during a pandemic as well, which was hard work, but it was fine because I got the tools, whatever, and then I wanted to sort my shit out. So I got a real job, and I'm now trying to be the person I want to be, while I'm in my adult life now.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. I feel like I went everywhere.
No, you did go everywhere, and it's fine. Honestly, I'll have someone come on here and tell me they want to talk about X, Y, and Z. 5 minutes into it, we've gone down a tangent, and we've just spent the next 45 minutes talking about that subject. So you're all good. So, all right. Uni to study sociology and just sociology.
Yeah,
only.
just sociology.
And then wanting to do your postgrad.
Yeah.
With
postcolonial studies.
Postcolonial studies.
Yeah.
That was a master's.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Right. And then you said part of that was Twitter. There was people. Well, you were saying that you can't go around wearing a bindi if you're not Hindu.
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Well, it was annoying me because everyone was taking the mickey out of me when I was growing up for being Hindu and Indian. And then the people that were taking the mickey were the ones using my culture and having fun with it. And I thought, well, if I were to do that, you'd all be...
But would they?
Yes, they would. And they were.
Just certain individuals, or are we talking about like general population?
Certain individuals and general population.
That's interesting.
And I think that racism towards Indians is so pushed under the rug.
Oh, yeah.
It's so horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, brown men are like creepy freaks, like literally. And brown women.
If we're getting in this conversation, literally, if we're going to get into this conversation, I'm all for it, because the amount of times, and like, see, I feel like there's, when it comes towards racism towards like Indians, there's this, I think you are right, it's parked under the bus compared to other races.
Totally.
And I feel like sometimes nowadays it's also become somewhat as a joke within like your friends and your communities, and albeit it sometimes isn't, it is. Like, I've had a few of my boys in the past take the piss and be like, all right, Apu.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Come again.
Yeah.
Wow. You can't say stuff like that, but
no, but they do.
In the grand scheme of it just being shits and giggles in the moment, fine, cool. But that kind of stuff definitely gets thrown out there a lot more, and it does go under the radar. And I've seen it on Twitter and Instagram. And normally, I think it's on either UB1, UB2, that Instagram page, where I've seen like, and this is possibly going off topic, but like, say, Sikh boys being bullied at school because of their traditions.
Yeah.
People pulling their hair and it's like, that's disgusting. But that's not as...
It's not as big a deal.
Compared to, let's say...
I don't want to compare race.
No, it's not. But it's true though, right?
But
like,
I just feel like part of it is because we don't stand up as a society and talk about it.
Yeah.
All we do is bitch about each other and complain about our community. I'm so bored of it.
It's true.
And like, I don't want to bitch about anybody anymore. I'm so over it. So even me dredging up my past is like, I'm not going to name and shame. It's just life that happens. So I feel like as a community, we have a big fat victim complex with each other, and we're not actually working together towards a better goal of being better in society.
Do you think it's... I'm going to ask you this right now. Do you think it's more of a Western challenge that we find with that? Like, we find that it's... that we're being taken the piss out of? Because I feel like if we brought that energy to India, they probably wouldn't care less.
Ah, that's an interesting question.
Because, like, the jokes that used to go around is that every Indian has their own corner shop.
Yeah.
You know, the little bobble of the head and speaking in an accent and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Look, you can play Punjabi MC and just point at all the Indians and stuff like that. And it's like, But in India, they'd probably shrug their shoulders, I think. I don't think anyone would care less. Why?
That's because that's our experience here. So they're not a victim of.
But what are we a victim of then? Because
racism.
Well, so is it explain the racist element within it? I agree with you, but I want you to like
explain the racism
from your perspective.
So from my perspective, racism can come in many forms, and it's not just someone taking the mick out of you or telling you that they had a curry for dinner, which I don't really care about. It's racism is embedded in structure.
Yeah.
Racism exists and thrives within structures. So if you're trying to... the easiest way to explain it is if you're trying to rise up the ladder and, you know, your white counterpart is too, you're going to have a few more hurdles you need to cross over before you can get to the top.
Yeah.
You can still get to the top in some instances. Not saying it doesn't exist. Obviously, it exists. But it's just going to be that one step harder to do it. That's one form because society stops you. And then other forms is that we might not have the types of privileges that our white counterparts also have. So if it comes to not abiding by rules in general, we don't get a free pass, but my white friends might get a free pass. So we are consistently drawing within the lines to ensure we don't cause any hassle. But you've got a million other people scribbling outside the lines and it's totally fine. I've had so many instances on like getting a train where I'm not given oh, it's fine, just go. Or, don't worry about that. Or it's okay. Maybe if I was white, I might. But I will never know. It's very hard to prove when and where.
No, so, talking about trains, I remember when I was working in like Barbican, and again, as an auditor, fine, suit and tie.
That sounds so riveting.
I know. Believe me. But I had the Harvey Specter look going on at the time, right? Yeah, hair combed back, like different suit on different day, that kind of vibe, right?
Fine.
Far from Harvey, but it is what it is. And I remember once I got on the train and I sat down and I can't remember if it was a lady or a guy. I think it was a lady. She got up, moved further down and sat somewhere else. And I initially, from that moment on, like this is whenever I go home, I make sure I smell nice. And I thought maybe, do I smell off or something like that? I said, I'm looking quite dapper. I'm not even going to lie. I'm looking all right now. On the way home, I'm feeling myself a little bit. I'm like, either I smell something. And then she just kept staring at me the whole way back. And I was like...
In what way?
Just like, as if she was scared. I wasn't sure because I was growing up my beard at this point as well. So I wasn't sure if that was a stereotype being thrown into the mix as well. And then, I remember talking about it with one of my boys saying, it used to happen. And it was like, I think that kind of that was a feel for racism within the corporate environment where it was like, I'm dressed just as similar as the guy opposite me sitting there right now. He's white and he's got a beard too, but you're moving up from your seat. For me, this is a bit...
God, that's really
a bit
nice.
odd.
Yeah.
But
how did it make you feel?
I generally thought I must have been smelling quite bad. So literally every time I go home from work now, if I feel just to make sure a little spray, a little touch up, no one's going to get up and walk away from me because I smell bad. Because don't get me wrong, if you get some smelly people on the train, you don't want to be next to them. Yeah. But this was just bizarre. I was thinking...
I mean, that's out and out just pure racism. So when you realised it was, then how did you feel?
So I've got a weird relationship when it comes to like stuff like this because I've also been called like the P word a number of times.
Right.
And I feel like when people have said it, in my head, I initially look at it as in, well, clearly you just assume that every Indian or every brown person is from Pakistan when you're saying this right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just a bit arrogant or a bit ignorant when you're saying stuff like that.
Totally.
But you're trying to put a derogatory spin on this right now and make me feel a certain kind of way. But I don't understand what you're trying to do, but cool. Like, I don't see it as someone trying to dig something out of me and like have me react or something like that. It's like, I'm actually Indian. Well, I'm British Asian, so that you know.
Yeah,
but if you want to throw that at me,
then come at
cool.
me.
It is whatever makes you feel better, mate. But I've known other people who have had that. I know parents and family members who have been targeted that way and have like flipped out or have been quite upset.
Yeah, for someone else, not when it happens to you. I think that happens though because we are just trying to exist and survive. So to go against our survival tactics and speak out isn't necessarily a norm mentally, but it's easy to speak for somebody else.
Yeah.
So I think that's what a lot of people do. I mean, I speak for people and communities all the time, and like I will write blogs for certain communities and I'll do what I need to do. And then when it comes to our own, I feel like there's so much, for me, there's a lot of pent up, like, and I can't get my words out. I cannot explain the feeling. And when you can't explain it for yourself, you just leave it. It's just, you just store it. But it all will stay stored.
No, you're right. You're right. Like, yeah, no, I sometimes feel like playing the race card when I'm in the office, and it's more banterous. Because like, I feel like nowadays, the kind of people I work with or I've managed to work with are quite like, they joke around with it in terms of like you can also joke around with them about being white or being black or whatever kind of stuff. Like, it's all fun and games, so nothing's said with malicious intent. It's just
fine.
a bit of banter.
Yeah, so it's all consensual racism.
Yeah. But there have been times where someone said to me, I didn't know you were Patel. Are you related to him? And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, right. So we're back here again.
And I remember a couple of times someone was like, damn, that's bloody spicy. And I said, is it really? I said, all right, okay, cool. We know you can handle your chili. Relax.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's just natural, normal
like,
crap.
And they say it with such like a smile and banter around it. It's like, okay, cool. But I feel like for certain people, it's, yo, you're taking the piss now.
Yeah, they just take it that one step too far.
Yeah. I've actually, the funny thing is, like, I call myself Uncle Pri, right?
Yeah.
My name's Priyesh. But there are times at work, like throughout where I've worked, that people struggle to say Priyesh. Say, I've been called Pritesh. Don't ask me why. I've been called completely other names just because it's easier to say. Neil. Dev. Like, completely just take my identity away from me. So because of that, I've shortened it down to just 3 letters. P-R-I. Pri. Everyone can say Pri. You'll go for Pri drinks.
Oh my God, you're a victim.
But I just do it right now because it's a lot more easier. It just rolls off the tongue. But it is quite funny when that kind of shit has happened in the past.
That's really annoying.
It used to infuriate me, but it was more of a case of, I don't feel like people are doing it maliciously. They
have to learn.
They do it.
I'm not being funny. This is such a joke. Like what the hell?
You have to learn.
Like, learn how to say people's names.
It is. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's not that difficult, but yeah.
It's, you know what? This is a really big thing, especially in the corporate world, like being able to pronounce people's names correctly.
Yeah.
And I think it's really insulting when you don't try, because they're really hard names. And, you know, if they come from European or Eastern European countries, you can just pronounce them.
Yeah.
And it's just, it rolls off the tongue. But when it comes to just trying a little bit harder with somebody's name, it's like, I don't know why there's such a big block. What is so hard about Priyesh?
It's not. It's not.
There's nothing hard about it.
I find it hysterical because it's like when it's happened to me and I know they've done it and they're like, oh shit, my bad, I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah. And if it's someone called Alex speaking to me, I'll just call him James. And I just give him a bit, you right, James? Oh, you talking? Oh, my bad. Sorry. And
so you try and
they're like,
do that.
Dickhead. All right, okay, cool.
Okay.
But when it's happened like with more, let's say, senior people, it is a bit infuriating. I'm really like, how can you write my name in the email but then call me something completely different?
I can't can't believe that happened. Like, it's just wild. It's wild. It's infuriating.
It's infuriating.
But there's actually, it's like, that's why you want to go back and explain the history of what has got us here today. And you've made us come here. Now we work for you. Get my name right. Like, it's
not
just,
that difficult.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
And there's not even a lot of, there's not much analysis I can think of behind it. Just pronounce the name correctly.
What made it worse was I dressed very differently to the other Asians within my intake when I was working.
Right. So what do you mean by different?
As I said, I had the Harvey Specter kind of look, right? So I was
So what did they wear?
no offense to any of the boys, but it was like
they just look like shit.
as in that I would wear a different suit every day. I'd wear a tie.
Yeah,
none of my friends wore a tie. So it was a case of like I tried to not I did try to stand out, but that was personally because this was who I was. To get my name wrong.
Wild.
But
yeah, so crazy.
Oh my god, crazy. Sorry, we diverted off topic.
No, but I think it's a really interesting topic because it's like another feature of like our life.
Yeah.
And it comes back to the whole point of what we were saying about how racism towards us is so swept under the rug.
Yeah.
And why like we have to explain ourselves in a better, more mature kind of way and not maybe take it as much. I feel like I take it all the time. Well, I used to take it all the time. Like, I feel like when I was doing all my drama stuff at school or whatever, I'd always have an Indian accent for some reason. It would always be an Indian accent. But I did that because then I owned it.
Yeah.
So then I got to control the narrative.
Yeah.
So when you control your own narrative, it makes you feel a bit better.
Yeah.
Even though probably what I was doing was adding fuel to the fire, with racism towards us because I was making a mockery out of the accent. And, I think we all fall into that trap, really, of kind of going with it and then exacerbating it so we own it. And I feel like it'll take a lot of work for us as a community to understand what's really going on because I feel like we have issues in our own community that we try and tackle.
Yeah.
And that's great. We're all trying to push the boundaries and stuff. But I feel like we're so concerned with what is going on within us that we're not really... We're spending too much time analysing our relationships with each other inside, whereas in reality we need to sort of work out what's going on the outside. Because there's so many amazing brown content creators, like they are just brilliant. Like I love watching all the stuff because it makes me feel inspired, but we exist in our own little sphere.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do so much more.
Of course.
We could be like unstoppable.
We can, and I feel it will come in time with obviously consistent effort and putting yourself out there and seeing things unveil. Like one of my I shouldn't really call it, she's not a friend, but we follow each other on Instagram, got to know each other through Clubhouse. I've seen her progress now with her role at Sky.
Right.
She's now like a presenter, and you see her like on the Sky Sports, like breaking news stuff.
Yeah.
Shout out Amber, obviously, give you a little shout out. But honestly, like I'm like raw. Like she was interviewing Wayne Rooney this week at Birmingham Football Club. So it's like things are falling into place.
Okay, fine.
But I do feel like within our community, within like the South Asian community, we don't help ourselves at times either.
No, we don't.
Going on, like say, like the concept of racism. Do you not feel like sometimes, albeit I can call out a victim card, but I feel like my older ancestors, i.e. grandparents and stuff, can't because albeit they may have been a target for racism, they're just similarly racist or ignorant in their own ways as well.
Yeah, I think there's a problem with our community because we've got a really... It's when you exist in this world...
Yeah.
And you're a person of colour, and you're living life as somebody who could potentially be someone who's victimised, but could also potentially be the oppressor. You're living in a very weird dichotomy of what the hell do I do with this? Half privilege and half victimisation. So I think a lot of people tend to go down the woe is me, I'm a victim route, and that isn't helpful because we're survivors, we're not victims. And the other side is we need to check when we are being racist towards other communities.
Yeah.
And we need to check when we're not being, what's the word? When you're not being open and just like, you're not acknowledging that you have this privilege. I think we have to acknowledge, like, me and you, we've got decent accents. It helps us navigate the corporate sphere very well. Like, if I had a proper Manny accent.
You got a slight Manny accent.
I know. It's fine. Oh, I know. Anyway, the guy downstairs, like, knew I was from Manchester.
Did he? Straight away.
Oh, okay.
0161.
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't know, money on the map, whatever. Our accent allows us to navigate the world in a better way.
Yeah.
Our ability to communicate, effectively, being educated, having a decent background, having nuclear families, whatever. All those things are privilege. And I think you can't take that stuff lightly.
Mm-hmm.
But the older generations, depending on when they migrated, are a major... they've got a lot of... they must have a lot of PTSD from the brink between... being colonized to being independent, whether we had family members that had to migrate everywhere as a result of it. There's a lot of trauma that's associated with everything. And then on top of that, we've actually managed to be quite successful in the West. We've actually managed to overcome that. And that's because we decided to assimilate. So because we decided that we were going to stay low, work as hard as we possibly can, not try and cause any trouble, I feel like we did that as a community, but also because of the colour of our skin, we are lighter in some degree. I think colorism is a really big issue, and I think that obviously benefited us as well. So we can't ignore all those different things, but I think they all play with each other.
Yeah.
So it's like it can't be one side you feel a certain way and another side. It's literally it's like a big chart with loads of different strings everywhere. And that's why we end up navigating it personally, because it's very hard to navigate it as a society or a certain demographic, because our experiences will be very different. You're a Patel. I'm not a Patel. I'm a Lahana. So it's like...
God.
So even then,
Yeah.
no one would think, you're just like, oh, you're Gujarati. Like, no. There are differences here.
There are differences.
And we are, we don't even have the same lived experience, yet we are from the same village in the same continent. Like, it's crazy. So I feel like there's a lot of analysis that needs to be done. And I feel like we all have to do a bit of self-reflection, acknowledge you've got a bit of privilege, acknowledge that also things do affect us and stuff, and have a balance between being a survivor and a victim, and also being somebody that could project onto somebody else. Yeah,
no, I hear you. Would you say, I'm not sure what life is like in Manny, but like...
It's great.
Have you did you grow up in like a multicultural society?
Yeah. Went to a school that was really multicultural, and my parents made sure of that. So I was...
You weren't one of few?
I felt like that because there weren't many Hindus, but it was multicultural and to some degree. But that's what I was saying earlier about institutions. They hold racism within the walls. So whether it's multicultural or not, whether we're in a melting pot or not, it didn't necessarily matter, because you're in an institution that was founded on white feminism and racism. So you're not necessarily breaking boundaries by putting people of colour in structures that never were meant for them in the first place. It doesn't work. So it's like you go into any sort of structure, whether that be corporate, whether that be an institution like an educational institution, or even, I don't know, Tesco's. It's like not meant for certain people, and the walls breathe that. I can't
I hear what you're saying. It's like going back to the argument of, like, say, the boardroom. Only certain people allowed in the boardroom.
Yeah.
You, my friend, are not ready for that level just yet. Like,
Why?
no, not you. I'm just.
Oh, you're saying
not you.
thing in
What people might say,
Yeah, okay,
like,
fine.
just based on, like, say,
Yeah.
color of your skin or your community or your background. I know for me, first and foremost, like, I was very fortunate to have such a multicultural background at school. I think within my year there were possibly 2 or 3 white people
No way.
within my year.
No way.
So everyone's black, Asian, and you've got people from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan.
Wow.
You've got
Okay,
Caribbeans,
fine,
Africans.
Fine.
So, like, literally, you learn, well, personally for me, I learned so much about different cultures in our own childish ways.
Yeah.
How people play, like, sports, to how they study, to understanding backgrounds in regards to, like, the fortunes I have where I'm living right now versus where someone else is. And, like, certain things start, like, you start adding things together, and it was very, very interesting. And then moving that into college was, okay, cool. Again, I would say possibly still very multicultural. Maybe there were a few more white people there. I don't know. Maybe it was just the schools I went to. But moving forward on the back end of that, like, I've realized when I've been within a group of people, whether it's a couple more white people more, and that, like, you're more the minority, it hasn't been that much of a need or want to change to try and fit into that crowd, if that makes sense. I still try and be myself from where I was rooted from.
Yeah, that's okay. That means you've had a solid.
I feel like I've been quite fortunate on that front,
That's
where I feel
really
like some people
solid.
haven't had that.
Yeah, they have.
So when they try and come into that mix, it's a case of, I remember I had one person say to me, like, you seem very chilled and relaxed. Like, I'm like, what do you mean by that? And then I was like,
Wait, in a white environment.
yeah, like, you seem like you're quite calm. And I'm like, was it based on the way I look, the way I dress, the fact that I am myself all the time versus trying to be someone else in this environment versus that environment. I said, it's interesting you say that, because I always want to just be pre all the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to, like,
Put
change the way
yeah.
I speak to someone.
Yeah.
I don't want to change the way I look just because that gets a message across a bit any differently. Listen to the words I'm saying first versus how I present myself. Don't get me wrong, I can always change that, but I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't be, like, guided to. And it's all, I always find that quite interesting. Like, nowadays, like, in the environments that I'm in, I will speak as if I'm from the area I am. I can also go very, very English and try and articulate my words a little bit better, but I like to keep it real, and that's just purely based on who I am and not losing that part of it.
Yeah.
I feel like some people struggle on that front.
Yeah, that's like a really solid core, actually, of not being, you don't mold yourself to different things, which is, yeah, it's quite rare, actually, I would say. I think a lot of people mold themselves depending on who they're sat with. And I think it's really easy to do that. And I think you have to be comfortable with who you are. But I think that comes back down to you knowing who you are inside.
Yeah.
People don't know who they are. So I think they can't stay strong because they're cosplaying different things.
They are.
It's knowing yourself. How do you know yourself? You tell me. How do you get to know yourself? I know myself, but I've always known myself. I never had to have that struggle. But what would you say to somebody that was learning to find who they are?
I think it goes down to asking yourself, if no one else was around right now, what kind of person would you be? What would you be?
Yeah.
Because I think the first thing that normally gets thrown at me when people struggle to admit, like, they're not being themselves right now, it's because they are caring about what everyone else is saying. So let's take that all away first and generally answer the question. What are you wearing? How are you speaking? What kind of music are you listening to? What are you eating and stuff? And generally start then reminding yourself those are your qualities. And
Yeah,
I feel like
way.
very, very quickly we can stop doing that. So, like, for me at work, if I go in and I'm bringing in packed lunches, right? Now, I air fry everything, but before, it was a case of, listen, I don't want to bring anything that's too Indian. Because
You're not going to start bringing in, like...
But now I'm taking in dal into the office, chicken, lamb, whatever it is, right? And I'm eating it at my desk. And the boys will walk past and be like, bro, that smells amazing. What is it? And I'm like, I might actually go get myself a curry for lunch tomorrow. That's actually a shout. And it's like, fuck it, it's just It's just
Yeah.
reminding yourself like this may smell like weird to you because it's quite oniony, quite garlicky, but to someone else it's amazing.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that, man. Does it taste good? For me, being very like into my health and fitness, is it part of my calories? Is it part? Fuck it, then just run with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've been in the office where people have brought food, and I'm just like, don't know what that is. But it is what it is, right? You can't say anything. So
yeah, let them just eat what they want to eat.
you just got to be like, you've got to just own you. And I feel like you have to also be comfortable with being who you are and where you come from. And I feel like that's a challenge. People aren't comfortable.
No, they're not.
People are scared to be themselves. Hence why I always say, come get unfiltered. That's all right. Like, show me who you really are.
Yeah, exactly.
And get to that stage first, because then you can start you being that person in all environments. Like, don't get me wrong, I can't wear these cargos to the office. I could risk it one day, but I have gone into work in cargos, trainers, and a jumper, and it's meant to be like kind of like a shirt and trouser kind
You
of
have
vibe.
done that before.
I do it all the time at the moment, and someone might look at me and be like, I'll be like, yeah, I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
I could wear a shirt, but the aircon's always on and I'm fucking cold. Unless you want me to wear my jacket in the office.
Yeah.
And like, well, he's wearing trainers. Why can't I wear my Yeezys?
Yeah.
They're trainers too.
Yeah.
And when that comes into play, it's a case of, well, you can't really take that away from me now.
But what if everybody did that?
And everyone did that.
But then what would happen?
Then it is what it is.
Society would crumble.
How would it crumble?
No, I'm saying that would be a good thing if it did.
I don't think society will crumble. I just feel like people will start authentically being themselves, and we would then take away, from an appearance perspective, what people have to look like versus what they can look like to get the job done.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. If your job entails you to wear a uniform, that's different.
Yeah. So you don't have it. Technically, you don't have a uniform at work.
There is a dress code, but like
But you don't follow it.
I used to, and then I realized, well, they're not really following it. And until someone calls me out and said, look, Pri, I don't think you should be wearing your football t-shirt to work. Okay, fine. Understandable. I'm not going to wear a football t-shirt.
Yeah.
But if someone says to me, why are you wearing that hoodie today in the office? And I'm like, well, it's cold. Can you tell them to turn down the aircon? Well, they're not going to do that just for myself. So I'm going to wear a hoodie.
Yeah.
It's only to stay warm. I'm not putting my hood on.
Fine. See, that's really different.
But that's because I stand up for myself, though, right?
Yeah. But then because you do, no one says anything.
And it's a case of, well, you can say something. Cool, then I'll work from home.
Yeah.
And that's not to try and be like rude or argumentative, but it's a case of like, this doesn't define me. So don't let what I wear make you think that the work that's going to be produced is going to be really shit or anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that kind of line of argument could be taken everywhere. That's like with everything. It's like if you decide you want to do something for yourself, it's not going to affect the work that you produce or the person that you are.
Yeah.
It's probably just going to make you a happier person, which in turn ends up making your work quality better anyway.
Yeah. I always think, like, even if you go back to, like, say, like skin color or whatever, like just whoever I am right now, don't let that be the first thing you take.
See. Yeah.
Like, appearance might be one thing, but don't let that be the defining factor in regards to what potential I really have in my locker.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes that can get washed away, and it happens in certain environments. But I also feel like we have programmed that within ourselves to feel like they're going to judge us right now. I remember I used to go to interviews thinking I needed to be clean shaved. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Take your earrings out. It's not really corporate. Well, shut up, man. Like, they're going to see it. You've got a nose piercing. Oh, it's a bit what? What is it?
What are they going to do? But then you won't get the job.
Then I don't want to work for someone who's going to make me feel guilty for being me.
Yeah.
In the office. That's not kind of the environment I want to work in.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. If I love being clean shaved, suit and tie all the time, that might be the right place for me.
Fine, yeah, but it's not.
But it's not. And it's owning that and being comfortable with the fact that, like, I'm not the right fit for you because we're out of a line in regards to this appearance argument. That's okay. Cool.
That's interesting. I never really thought of it like that. Yeah, I don't really have anything I would say back. I would just digest what you had to say then. And I think it would be good if other people did as well, because if I digest that and take that on board for tomorrow, day after that, I feel like I would live more unapologetically in myself, and that's what I'm promoting. That's what I'm trying to put forward. You know, you can own your story and you can own yourself, but you need to own yourself day to day. That's
be you.
That's the line.
It's
but
it's difficult.
It's like you can be you, but people want to be themselves outside their work environments or outside their obligations. But I want to get to a point where my entire life is just me.
You're Rhea all the time.
I just want to be me all the time. I want to be Rhea the minute I wake up, the minute I go to sleep, all the time. I want to have the same humor. I want to talk about the same things. I don't want to be shy of like expressing my opinion, even if it's in an environment where it might not be taken effectively. It's like you want to be you 24/7. And I think we're in a really strange time where a lot of us do tend to work from home. So maybe there's more freedom to be yourself in more environments to an extent. But it's still not the type of freedom that is healthy either, because you obviously then you're locked away in your house and that's it.
There's an element of that, and I feel like you can try your luck. That'd be my best piece of advice. Like, if you feel uncomfortable where you are right now, ask yourself the question, what could you do to start being more comfortable?
Yeah.
If it irritates you being in that environment because you're not able to be yourself, break it down a little bit. What could you start doing a bit more often to start being you? So like in our office right now, everyone's can be very serious at work, but at the same time, you flip the script and we could be talking about maths.
Yeah.
Everyone's having
fun.
everyone's having shits and gigs around maths or the football or whatever, and it's like you build that rapport where you're yourself and everyone else is themselves, and you start seeing things. You start organizing socials where
totally
you get to be you, and it's more of a.
It's about the fear of it.
Yeah, but the fear we have is that we're gonna get told off for it.
But we're not, as you've just quite rightly proved with your cargo pants.
And if someone says to me like, I don't think that's appropriate,
then
okay, cool.
That's fine.
That's your opinion.
Unless it's somebody. So for me, I would listen to somebody superior saying that to me, and then I would change what I was doing.
If someone superior still said that to me, I'd be like, I appreciate where you're coming from. I don't think there's anything wrong with me wearing this to what you're wearing right now, personally, because I'm still doing the job.
Yeah.
If what I was doing right now was stopping me from doing my job, then I would agree with you. But at the same time, like the whole concept around appearance, I talked about it in one of my episodes time ago. With a girl, and we talked about like pretty privilege and how women have to wear certain attire within the environment to possibly progress and get by.
Yeah.
Skirts, tights, dresses, a certain kind of look, and it's like
it's a really big issue, and I think it has been talked about before. But if I were to just put my 2 pence into it, I think fashion is such an amazing outlet for women. I think it's just amazing that we get our own, and for men as well, you know, you get your own avenue to do things creatively, and you can do that every day if you want to, and it could be a hobby, and that is so amazing. And the problem is that you take your fashion and you put it out into society in the world, and there's a lot of expectation over the way you're supposed to look and the way you're supposed to be and the way you're supposed to act by wearing certain things that you might. So if I were to wear something more low cut, something tighter, something shorter, it would be that you would be perceived in a certain way. So if you get worried about the way someone's going to look because they see your skin colour, someone's going to look at me because they're going to check whether I've got cleavage or not, and whether that means that I am more presumptuous or more out there than somebody else. And it's a really difficult thing because no matter what you wear, the female body is so highly sexualized to the point women can't even put their hair in a ponytail without it being sexualized. So there is nothing you can do as a woman that will ever be enough. We cannot solve that problem. It is up to men to look at women and not see those things and to desexualize women.
100%.
It is so infuriating to be so hyper. I'm not always hypersexualized, but for women to be consistently that hypersexualized, It's so weird. There was a grandma eating an ice cream in a car. Someone videoed it going, she shouldn't be doing that. What the hell? What the hell? This old lady can't even eat an ice cream. Like, what the hell?
Fuck's sakes. my only counter, I shouldn't say argument, my only counter towards what you've just said right now is, I think for that, and people might not like what I say here, but I feel like for a change to be made, if you use you as an example, you have to stop caring. You have to understand that what one person's opinion isn't really you. If you came here today and said, look, I've worn this grey jumper, and I've worn these boots and these tights, etc., because I didn't want you to judge me, I'd be like, Rhea, that's on you. What I say doesn't matter. If you wanted to wear something low cut, if you wanted to wear something baggy, that's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
You're stopping yourself from being you right now because of what someone may think.
Yeah, but it's not about that. No. That's what we're saying. Women should be allowed to wear those
exactly
things.
But for women to be able to wear those things, they should just do it regardless and not worry what someone says, because it's an opinion at the end of the day.
Okay, so I understand that point of view.
Yeah.
I can understand what you're saying there, where it's like you're supposed to wear you, and then if everybody just wore them, then there'd be less to bitch about, because then maybe it becomes more normal. Totally get that side. What I'm saying is that women can't do anything without being sexualized, no matter what they wear.
Yeah.
So the problem there is, when you do wear those certain things, it's not about what Massey's going to say next door. It's about the creepy men that stare at you when you're walking past.
Yeah.
You are then become a target. So you feel like you are putting yourself in a situation.
Yeah, I hear that.
Where it's uncomfortable and dangerous.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, on the plus side, I'm being told I should be able to wear what I want, but then I get raped tomorrow. Was that my fault? And it becomes the onus is always on the woman.
I hear what you're saying.
It's so unfair. It's like the onus is always on us. Well, you should just wear it if you want to. Well, I'm really worried because if I do and then something happens to me tomorrow, it's going to be my fault that I was wearing a low-cut top. It's the onus should now be on the men to check themselves.
Yeah. And I think that I 100% agree with what you're saying. Because it's like, my argument to you would be like, yeah, wear what you like. But I'd
be comfortable wearing what I like in front of you, because you seem like a stand-up normal person.
Oh, thanks.
Well, look, just chill. Like, fine. But, like, you know.
I hear what you're saying, though.
Well, I go out on the street.
No, because I know my sister would tell me stories like this. It's like, it's uncomfortable because, like, people just look at you in a certain way.
Yeah.
And, like, my message to her in these scenarios, and it's a case of, like, people are going to assume things, right? And, like, you shouldn't have to change what you're doing in certain scenarios or wherever you are based on creepy men, as an example, right? But if you're telling me right now you're going to go dressed in something less revealing for you personally because you don't want that hassle, but you don't get to naturally be yourself, I think you've got to ask yourself the question, what's more important? Safety-wise of it. So in terms of a safety element, there are workarounds. You can organise, like if my sister was going out and she was, and like I could tell like she was quite fearful in regards to coming home, etc. All right, okay, cool. Well then we'll stay up. Yeah. Just let us know when you're coming back if you want us to come pick you up or something like that. Or why don't all of you come home at the same time together and go stay at one of your friends' house? So there's always kind of workarounds, and that shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be the case. You should be able to wear what you like, come home and feel safe. But we also live in a world right now where, as fucked up as it is, there are workarounds, and I'd hate for someone not to authentically be themselves or feel like they can be themselves based on things that just generally happen. I don't know. I
understand what you're saying. It took me a second to get I
waffled a bit.
No, I was actually going through the story in my mind of what you would do with your sister, and I think that makes sense that there are solutions we can put forward that are practical in today's day, rather than saying, okay, well, all men just need to change their attitudes and then we'll be fine.
Because we can say that, but not everyone's going to listen.
Yeah, they're not. But it's also about, so let's say you have those scenarios and you can make workarounds. Women make workarounds with our entire lives. Like, it's a workaround with everything. It's not just about what I'm wearing when I go out. It's about ensuring that I don't, even when you're communicating with a guy, am I being too friendly? Are they taking this the wrong way?
Yeah.
Or, am I talking to somebody and then not paying them enough attention? Are they going to have a go at me because I, didn't do this, didn't do that, didn't do this, blah, 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 blah. There's scenarios at every minute of your life that we have to consistently work around as women. So we're very used to that. I don't think that's something that, maybe our family help us with that workaround as well. My parents might pick me up if I need to, or I'll make sure that I spend more getting a taxi home rather than getting public transport. There's a million scenarios that we consistently work at and work towards and do. But I think it's about also checking with your male friends and checking what their opinions are like. And then if they'd say something out of turn, not putting it under the rug. Like
call them up on it.
You have to call people up and out on it, because we're constantly checking ourselves. But what about the people that are making those assumptions? I'm sure they make them to their guy friends, but everybody just laughs about it.
Yeah. No, that it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Do I feel like times have changed versus what they were 10, 15 years ago? I like to think with the way social media and platforms are working right now, people are a bit more aware and possibly are trying to put their foot in a better direction. There's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
But I feel like there possibly are more workarounds and opportunities where we don't have to not be ourselves nowadays than they were 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, Rhea, this is see what you messaged me, what you wanted to talk about, and we still possibly didn't even get into it.
Completely different.
It's what happens on the pod. But when you're next down in the ends, we'll definitely get you in and talk about that, because I feel like I won't mention what the title is for that particular topic.
We will go into it.
We'll do it for sure.
Yeah,
but
thing.
Big thank you for you coming through. It's been
thanks for having me.
It's been an interesting chat.
Yeah, I think it's gone all over the place. It's been good.
It's all right. It's just a bunch of waffle on the Unfltered podcast. It's what we love. It's what we love.
Thanks for having me.
Where can everyone find you?
Everyone can find me on Rhea Smyer on Instagram, and I'm also Unapologetic Silverjay on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
There we go.
Listening.
Upcoming podcaster right here.
Coming out.
I love. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Thanks again for listening. It's been your boy Uncle Pre. It's always a pleasure to be in the studio and record with my guests. I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and if you like stuff like this, please do like, comment and subscribe. It helps me take the podcast to a place where I can definitely bring in more people that are going to resonate with you, whether it's their stories, whether it's their journey, whether it's just something that they're going through right now. So definitely like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, much appreciated you staying in here. I love everyone that comes through, and I love all the comments and feedback that I get, so keep that coming through. And yeah, it's been your boy Uncle Pre, and I'm signing out. Peace.